Scary, no more chocolate. A scary thought for you chocolate lovers out there, but some of the world's biggest cocoa producers claim we're heading for a major shortage. In 2013, the world ate around 70,000 metric tons more cocoa than it produced. Now, by 2020, that number could grow to 1 million tons. Here's why. 70% of the world's cocoa supply comes from West Africa, mostly from Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana. Usually, the dry weather in the region is affecting output. Now, crops are also doing battle with the fungal disease, frosty pod. It targets cocoa pods and is highly transmittable. People's tastes are changing also from milk chocolate to dark chocolate, which requires a higher volume of cocoa. And demand from Asia, especially China, continues to surge, and all that makes it possible there could be a cocoa or chocolate shortage. For more on this, I'm joined by David Streit, co-founder and chief operating officer at Commodity Weather Group. Welcome to the studio. So it's a fun topic we've got, but it's also very serious for those who love chocolate, and there's a number of folks in the office that, of course, are very concerned about this. Now, the problems in West Africa, we were just talking about this very briefly. How much has that played into the chocolate shortage this year?
Actually, it hasn't. The main concern that we had for that portion of the country is that or the world, is that it produces so much cocoa that if the Ebola outbreak had led to a quarantine in the area, you could have bottled up as much as half of the world's supply.
It would have disrupted logistics. It would have disrupted, obviously, people getting in and out, just trying to get the cocoa to the markets, right?
Exactly. But now that your story has already said that, that's much more under control at this point, the markets have come off quite a bit as it opened up that market again.
So there's been a couple of discussions and articles talking about the shortage of cocoa, and I'm not convinced we have a real shortage. Is it a real shortage, or is it a discussion of a possible shortage that we may have?
It is a discussion of a possible shortage, because actually this year in West Africa, they had very normal weather, which was very conducive to a big crop. So they're actually raising their crop estimates at the present time from the International Cocoa Association. So it's at this point in time, we actually have a surplus.
But prices have gone up.
Yes.
So what's happening there? Why?
Well, the price run-up was mainly from the Ebola concern. Now, last year, we did see prices run up 25% because West Africa did have a drought in that year. So it's very vulnerable because so much of it is concentrated in West Africa that a drought in that area can have serious repercussions on the supply.
So we're not out of the woods yet because it's all weather dependent.
Exactly, and one of the things that we're concerned about now is that we are going into an El Nino type of pattern, and El Ninos tend to be very disruptive to tropical weather. And a lot of times you can get drought conditions, particularly in Indonesia where they also grow cocoa, but also if it's a strong enough El Nino, it can have a negative impact on the weather situation in West Africa as well. So that's something we're definitely going to be watching very carefully in the year to come here.
Now, that's on the supply side. Now, what about the demand? We just mentioned about Asia, the insatiable appetite for chocolate. I don't understand how they're eating so much chocolate, but I'll let that be for now. How big is that demand, and does that ultimately, it has to ultimately affect prices, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, because of Asia's growth and economically, it really has led to the major demand increases that we've seen. And so that's the major driver. In fact, Europe at this point, because of their recession, has actually reduced some of their last few years. So it's a huge increase that is expected to continue.
Our producer, Rochelle Kufel, is very, very concerned about this. So I'm going to have you help answer one of the big questions. In 2015, are we going to have a shortage or not because of the current circumstances, or do we simply just have to wait until we see what the weather looks like?
We won't have a serious situation as far as reductions in cocoa production that I can see at this point. If at this point we think El Nino is not going to be strong enough to extend its drought implications into West Africa. It will probably cut some of the crop production in Indonesia, but they're a much smaller producer, so it'll have less impact. So she can rest safe over the next year's time that we should still have enough to cover demand.
And this is on the assumption, obviously, the Ebola situation does not get worse. Am I right?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
David Streit, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. There you have it, Rochelle. You heard it there. Not to worry about next year.